Okay, guys, this is just a little video. The purpose of it is to kind of answer one of the most common questions I get when people start planning their trick for their chicken. So, students want to do something that's fun, right? And I understand that. And they also want to know how to get a good grade. So basically, once you're training your chicken needs to do kind of three stages of a trick, which I'll explain in greater detail later. But basically, what it boils down to is your chicken needs to know a feeding spot. If it does that and it goes back to it repeatedly, you'll get a two. Um, or one. If it leaves the feeding spot and returns when you give the conditioned reinforcer, that's a two. If it does one trick, so it leaves the feeding spot and does kind of one thing consistently, goes to one area, you know, approaches something, jumps over something, climbs a stair consistently, that's a three. And then two tricks, which is like climbing stairs and then pecking a ball, or jumping over something and then pecking something else, or going through a tunnel and doing that, that'll get you a four. And it's not that hard. I mean, it takes some time and some work with the chicken, but it's not all that hard. So, but most students want to kind of come up with something interesting and fun, and so I'm gonna kind of show you some videos here. That's what's loaded up on the screen, other than my face, are some videos of boxes that other students have built and designed in order to train their chicken to do something that they thought was interesting. So here's my advice when I get a student who's like, I don't know what to do, Mr. Burns. First of all, it doesn't have to be very complicated. Um, Remember training tips one and two. You need to build on something that is on behaviors that are innate, and then you shape them. So what will the chicken do? The chicken will peck, the chicken will also scratch. The chicken will walk places. Chickens can see color, and they have very good eyesight, so they can tell the differences between things. Chickens can jump, um, but at the same in the same way, you don't want to train your chicken to do something that a chicken couldn't do or wouldn't do innately. So you can only really shape or develop behaviors if the chicken does it sort of innately on its own. It has to try it. So if your chicken never jumps, and jumping is an important part of your trick, you're never going to be able to teach your chicken to jump. But most chickens will jump. Now, some things chickens won't do. If your trick involves jumping something really high, when they're little, they're not that strong, so they won't be able to do that. You'll see in the videos here some examples of about how high they can jump. Um, your chicken is not going to go through water. They don't like deep water. Not that that would be involved in most of your tricks. Chickens can't fly, at least not when they're babies. It's got to be something that they would do innately, but there's a lot to work with. So, so let's say you're like, okay, I get it. They walk, they peck, they blah blah blah, but I still don't know what to do, right? So here's what you should do. If you want a trick that you think is fun, and not every trick has to be fun, yours can be very simple. You could, like, let's say you don't care. So then just, put a dot on the wall of the box. You don't have to do anything else to the box. And go teach the chicken to go peck that dot, or put the dot on the floor and make the chicken go, or teach the chicken to go scratch it. That would get you a three. If you could move the dot and it would go and follow the dot wherever it was, that would be a four. Or make your chicken climb up a ramp and then jump down, or something. It doesn't need to be inspired. You can do something very simple. If you want it to be more fun and personal, you should relate it to something you like. I think I've told you guys all the story about the football player I had who ended up having his chicken play football. And sports seem to come in a lot with students who play athletics. I also had another girl who really, she loved the class. She was totally into the chicken idea, but she just couldn't think of anything. And so I was like, well, what do you like to do? And she's like, well, I don't do things that chickens do. I'm like, it doesn't matter. Just what do you like to do? And so she's like, oh, I like to shop. I was like, all right, so have your chickens shop. And she's like, chickens can't shop. And yeah, they can't shop, right? But you can teach your chicken to do something that looks like shopping, right? So she ended up building, and I don't have a video of this, unfortunately, but she built this kind of wall, two doors, a word above each door. One was like a store she liked, and one was a store she didn't like, I think. Anyway, And inside of the door for the store that she liked, we made this kind of like little room, this divider. She built out of like a little wooden or round tube. I don't remember what it was made out of, and some supports, like a rack. And then she hung these little paper. She just cut out different colored papered shirts or something. And she had her chicken walk through the door and pick, I don't know which one, whatever, the orange one. It's great. Her chicken went shopping. Like it went into the store that she liked and it picked out a shirt and cool. Great, right? She had fun. It was interesting to watch. And so that's what my advice. Build on something you know or something you like. And I'll talk about that as I show you some videos. All right, so let's get to the videos here. First one I'm going to show you here, no sound, but you'll see the chicken. The feeding spot is the yellow box, kind of right up here. The chicken was supposed to go and scratch this food. This person liked the show Hell's Kitchen, so her chicken was supposed to be whoever the main guy is on Hell's Kitchen, and he's knocking over the chefs and stuff like that. Fun, great idea, simple, right? The chicken goes to the same spot each time. It scratches and pecks. Now this was only a 3 at this point. Later on, the chicken ended up going over here and like knocking this plate off of the table too or something like that, and that got her a 4. So there you go. There's one trick. Here's another. This is a student. She was a tennis player, and so she trained her chicken. Whoops, kind of was at the end of that there. She trained her chicken to hop over a net and then approach this player and peck him. I don't know why she had him peck him. That's not very much like tennis, but whatever. That was her design. And you see her chicken going back and forth to the feeding spot. There it pecks it. It gets some food away. All right, so there's another idea. This student, relatively simple concept here. The chicken walks up a little ramp, pecks a little hanging bell here. But the part that was fun for this student was he was into rock climbing. So he, had this be a rock climbing scene. So it looks like the chicken is rock climbing. And actually we figured at first he made it pretty shallow, the angle, so the chicken could get up it. But once the chicken learned to do it and go ring the bell, which I guess you do at rock climbing gyms, or no, I don't guess. I know you do at rock climbing gyms. He could have made this much steeper, and that chicken would have climbed a pretty steep ramp to peck that bell. So fun trick for him, simple design, just based on something he liked to do. Sorry, I keep looking down here at the screen and not at the camera. It's probably distracting, but okay. Here's another one. Now, actually, this is a good one, or a good example of one where I had initially told the student they probably shouldn't try this trick. In retrospect, it worked, and I wish I had said go for it right at the beginning, because he kind of did another trick, and then in the end, he's like, I'm going to try it and see if I can get it to work. And it did, and we all were like, oh my gosh, how did you get that to work? But, he's got a tech deck here, and he wanted to teach his chicken to skateboard. And my idea was that it would be really hard to get the chicken to stand on such a movable object, like the balance thing would kind of make it nervous. And that it wouldn't in an innate way stay on the thing. But he ended up getting it to do it. This isn't the best video. It did it better at other times, but the chicken would get up on the tech deck and kind of push itself along. And actually he was able to, the chicken would stand up on it and he could roll it down these little ramps and stuff that he built. So his actual trick involved pecking the tech deck at first. But so that was a fun one. I still couldn't believe he did it. So, it goes to show you sometimes you shouldn't even take my advice. But there was a chicken that learned to skateboard. So he was into skateboarding. Another idea. You might recognize Itzel here. She's a student of yours. So her chicken, she named it Picasso. And her chicken was painting. So she took these different colored paints and she put, paint in each of these little tiny dishes, which is shallow enough for the chicken to go in. And then she would train the chicken to always walk to this spot. So whichever color she put in that spot, the chicken would step in there and then run back across. She initially chained it with no paint and then put paint in at the end and would put these pieces of paper down, and her chicken made these cool little paintings. You can see one in my class, actually. I still have one. So. It's great trick. Not a complicated idea. The chicken walks to one spot, steps in something, and steps on something and comes back. But she made it kind of her own because she's like, I wanted my chicken to paint. So that was fun. Somebody wanted him to play basketball. Unfortunately, it's surprisingly hard to get a chicken to hold on to something. They can peck things and they can pick things up with their beak, but one of the things that they don't innately do is sort of hold on to them for a long time. So I've never had a student really successfully get a chicken to carry something. They'll peck at things and maybe hold on to it for a minute, but rarely carry it. So basketball is not really, it's not really like a good idea, although a lot of students want to try it. So, but this student still wanted to do basketball, so this is what she did. She basically built a ramp. Chicken goes up the ramp, pecks the ball falls down into the net. You got your basketball game. So that was kind of fun. Here's one more kind of a complicated sort of ramp system. Would take a lot more time and energy to build, but this student wanted him to kind of go through this kind of fun house of ramps, kind of up several different ramps, and then down here. The chicken sometimes was supposed to go through the tunnel that was down here at the bottom, but ultimately started to go over the top. But anyway, there's some ideas. Find something that inspires you. If you have questions, you can ask me. If you're not sure if your thing is possible or not, I can definitely give you some advice and some direction. And come up with something that's fun. It'll make the last couple of weeks a lot more enjoyable for you. You'll enjoy training your chicken more, and you'll end up getting a lot more out of the whole experience. So there you go.